Now, this is certainly a video that many of you have been eagerly anticipating. Well, you got it, bitches. You got it. What a long, winding road we've come to get to this point. And how ironic is it that the only reason that the Chicago Bears sit with the number one overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft and in the position to have the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams is because Ryan Poles, before last year's draft, did basically exactly what the hell I wanted him to. When a lot of other Bears fans were thinking, Bears football, let's trade down to 2, and then let's trade down to 4, and then let's take Will Anderson and we'll be fucking idiots. Because we got to prioritize the defense. Because defense and running the ball wins football games. That's what Bears football is all about. I'm like, no, you need to understand the spot that you're in. And you need to trade back big. And you need to pass on Jalen Carter. And you need to take Darnell Wright. And that's what they did. They traded back big with Carolina. Carolina has a terrible season. Bryce Young plays like dog shit. And the Bears get a generational type of gift here. Which for many, they might say, well, that's appropriate because they view Caleb Williams as a generational prospect. Now, though, as I think about evaluating Caleb Williams, there are some challenges, some biases that I've got to be really cognizant of, and I've had to be really cognizant of. One is not trying to pretend he's greater than he actually is because I'm so desperate for him to be the guy to justify, what I've said in the 4 about Justin Fields not being the guy, because he clearly fucking wasn't, and the NFL told you that in terms of the compensation that the Bears got in return for him. I can't sit there and just sweep past certain things to hold him up on a pedestal because I so desperately want him to be the guy. And believe me, I do, right? I really do. But on the flip side, I can't just sit there and say, well, it's Bears football. So, of course, they'll fuck up Caleb Williams and he'll be a bust and we'll be right back in the same spot again in 3 or 4 years. And then go out and looking for ways to justify that position and justify that belief. I got to be careful of all that, right? And I know also I tweeted in previous months that I wasn't so sure that Caleb Williams would be QB1 on my board, let alone QB2 or even QB3 or 4. And some of that is, again, a little bit of a bias of, historically to me at least, when the draft media, the major media, crowns somebody very early on as a can't-miss generational type of talent, the results are pretty mixed, and oftentimes they're not the top quarterback in their draft class when all is said and done. So thinking about all of that, trying to learn the lessons of the past, like my great evaluation of C.J. Stroud, my horrendous evaluation of somebody like Zach Wilson, brings us to this point in time. So let's talk about Caleb Williams, who he is as a prospect, what I project for him at the next level, and ultimately whether I think Bears fans and the Chicago Bears organization should be excited or if they should prepare themselves for potential disappointment. And I know there's a pocket of you that are watching as Bears fans that are kind of nervous here because I was all over Trubisky not being the guy from day one. Same thing with Justin Fields. And you don't want me to be speaking about Caleb Williams in that same light because even if you think Caleb Williams is great, by association, if I sit there and say that I have some real concerns and I don't think he's all that in a bag of potato chips, you're going to start saying, oh shit, it's going to be a long 3 to 4 years. So let's get to it, right? As I watched Caleb Williams and I watched Caleb Williams and I rewatched Caleb Williams, I took a long time. Like I've spent a couple of weeks watching every throw and every run from 2022 and 2023. And it was because I really wanted to feel confident. I really wanted to feel good about my evaluation and ranking of him. Here's what stood out to me for Caleb Williams on the positive aspect. High-end arm talent. I don't think his arm talent is on the level of a Mahomes, a Josh Allen, an Anthony Richardson, a Justin Herbert, but he's in that top of that tier too, right? So he would come into the league and he'd be in the 5 to 8 range. It could be a little higher. You could convince me otherwise. But his high-end arm talent pops all over the place throughout his college career. He can make all of the necessary big-time throws in the NFL consistently, from standing in the pocket, on the move, across his body, all 3 levels of the field. Like, that shit really pops. And it really impressed me. What impressed me even more is his ability to play and improvise outside of structure. He's the best at that out of any quarterback I've ever graded, bar none. Which can be of a 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. But from a positive standpoint, he's the best at it that I've seen. In terms of a guy coming into the NFL, he just is. His ability to pull rabbits out of his hat, his ability to extend and manufacture plays and be scrambling around to buy time while still keeping his eyes down the field is a truly, truly special talent. It's his best talent. His arm talent is really damn good. And I don't want anybody to get their vas deferens twisted, because I'm not putting his arm talent in the same classification of Mahomes or Allen or guys like that. Get over it. But I only think it's his second best talent. I think his best talent and his best skill is that improvisational ability. What does help his arm talent, though, is his mechanics are really sound. In terms of just basic execution in the pocket, when he does that, it's really good. When he's on the move, he's outstanding at being able to turn his hips and turn his shoulders towards the target. He's also able to throw from multiple arm angles, which you say it doesn't always point to mechanics. I say it actually does, because he has control of his body at all times. He has control of his arm. He knows what he's doing. Those mechanics are really, really good. His footwork is great. I could go on and on about that. He's also got a great feel. When you take those light feet, those quick feet, and combine them with his feel and his instincts for moving around up and down and left and right within the pocket to buy some extra time, you can start to paint this picture of a high-level talent at the quarterback position. Especially when you think about those quick feet, he can avoid a number of sacks because of how quickly he can get out of trouble. He can move, he can scramble, he can bail out when the shit hits the fan. But if he's within the pocket, and sometimes even when he's improvising outside of the pocket, he's successful at scanning through his progressions. He's really effective, relatively speaking. When you talk about guys and their accuracy and their overall results when they go to their second and third progression, it's often a challenge or a concern when you're talking about college quarterbacks making the transition to the NFL level. That's not a big concern for Caleb Williams. You see him be able to have success going to his second and third read. You see him be able to throw with anticipation. Sometimes a little bit of anticipation, sometimes a lot of anticipation. He also plays with the physical and mental courage you want from a face of the franchise. And if you're somebody that believes in some old standards at the quarterback position, you think about the Bill Parcells rule, you want him to make like 30-plus starts. He's made 30-plus starts at the college level. So he comes in with plenty of experience at a high level, whether it be Oklahoma or at USC. So there's a lot to really like here about Caleb Williams. And the more that I watched him, the more I gained a real appreciation for that. But on the flip side, though, I saw some of the concerns and some of them, the weaknesses, the real areas of you got to fix this shit that concern me even more than I anticipated. I've mentioned before about the below prototype height. He is. He's not a dwarf like a Kyler Murray, something like that. But Bryce Young example, right? He doesn't quite look like a Keebler elf, but he's not a massive dude. Now his hand size is decent. He's carrying about 215 pounds on a 6'1 frame. So it's not bad, but it does bring some questions about, hey, recent quarterbacks that didn't fit the prototype that went number 1 overall were Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield the year before that, and then Bryce Young last year. And those results have certainly been mixed to not very good. what would make you think Caleb Williams would be different? I would say he has a lot more talent as a quarterback in general, but the below prototype height, it's there, right? So I can't pretend it isn't. One thing that we can't deny is his ball security in 2023 was pathetic. Too many soft-ass, oftentimes drive-killing, back-breaking fumbles, including a number of instances in the second half and even in the fourth quarter. You can't have this shit. I don't care if you've got high-end arm talent and you can move and you can improvise to kingdom fucking come. You got to sit there and hold on to the damn football. And I know there are going to be some people that look at Caleb Williams and think he's a little weird, a little kumsi kumsa, one of those types of guys that'll sit there and say, first I fucked her man, ooh, then I wore her clothes, hey. So he should be better with ball security. Is that what you're saying? No, I don't give a fuck. Doesn't matter. But he has to stop fumbling the ball. There's no excuse for that. And you can't have that. You just can't. I'd much rather have you throwing the ball 20, 30 yards down the field and trying to make big plays and having a little bit higher interception rate than I would a fumble rate. Just can't happen. You know, as much as you talk about his improvisation ability and his ability to play outside of structure, he too often passes up on the first read or the hot read because he's looking for the big play, which for some Bears fans, certainly going through 4 years of Trubisky and 3 years with Justin Fields, should give you some pause. And I'll admit it gives me some pause too. Here's the distinction I will draw. Is I saw enough evidence to suggest that Caleb Williams could not only process what he sees, he could react to it, which to me is technically a bit of processing, right? But he could throw with anticipation. He could throw with feel. He didn't have to wait to see it be open to throw it open, to trust that it will be open. Trubisky and Fields, that was a major problem for them. That's not the problem with Caleb. But sometimes he passes up on the basic shit, and you got to know when to hold him and you got to know when to fold him. And he's got to get better at that. Because you're not going to consistently succeed at the NFL level always trying to look for the big play. At some point in time, that's going to bite you in the ass in a big-time way, especially if it's not the fumbles that do you in. In these two areas, he has to get better, and quite a bit better. Argue with a wall if you don't agree. I'd also say I'm concerned a little bit about his performance in clutch situations was kind of up and down. I think, again, that's in part due to, one of the big criticisms is his lack of consistent execution and willingness to play within structure. He can do it. He's shown the ability to do it. He's just not great consistently at doing so. And then I also saw some moments in 2023 especially, and that USC O-line stunk, don't get me wrong, but he had moments where he felt like he didn't see or feel the edge pressure coming. He took some bad preventable sacks, avoidable sacks. And I'd also say in 2023 his downfield ball placement was a bit scattered. He makes some phenomenal throws. But you see a number of times where he's underthrowing his deep wide receiver that's open quite a bit to where they've got to come back and adjust to the ball where they shouldn't just have to do that. Caleb should have the arm talent to be able to lay it out there. And what happens sometimes, I think people get fooled by, they see the result of what happened with the play and not the process that went along with it. He's got to get better at his downfield ball placement because it wasn't the best consistently in 2023, even though he would certainly make some big-time special holy shit throws, right? So what does this all mean? What am I trying to say about Caleb Williams? His arm talent, his ability to improv, his mobility give him some foundational elements that allow him to be a guy that could be a top 5 NFL quarterback. They do. However, when I think about Caleb Williams, what's really going to determine just how successful he is how well he can cut back on the fumbles and how well he can consistently execute within structure. If he can execute consistently within structure in a better fashion, he'll make fewer mistakes. He'll have fewer misses. He'll take fewer sacks. He will allow his offense to more consistently move the ball down the field. He'll naturally be better in clutch situations. Like his arm talent, mobility, and improvisation ability give him the opportunity by year 2 of his career to come in and be a top 8 to 12 quarterback in the league. No doubt in my mind about that. But what's going to matter here is how well he can fix those other things. That's what's going to determine whether or not he stays in that 8 to 12 category or if he truly becomes an elite, no doubt about it, franchise NFL quarterback, and not just a franchise quarterback, but an elite guy, a guy that is a signature star in the league and a massive trajectory changer for the Chicago Bears franchise. He's got to protect that ball better. He's got to be able to take what he gets sometimes. He's got to get better at staying within that structure, not always dancing around, because it's fair to wonder how much of that improbability is going to translate consistently to the NFL level. He's going to have to do that. And if he does, watch out. I look at Caleb Williams and like Drake May, let's say, right? And I think of this as a little bit similar to the 2020 quarterback class. Joe Burrow was the guy that was going to go number 1. Joe Burrow was not my top graded quarterback. But yet, when it came to the Bengals, I said they absolutely have to take him. He's the guy. He's going to be a dude. You just knew it, right? But you also knew he was perfect for them and he was perfect for the situation. While I might have at least one other quarterback in this draft class rated higher than Caleb Williams, and I do, when I look at the Chicago Bears and their situation and what they need, it's Caleb Williams. So if you're asking me as a Bears fan, am I excited about the fact that in a few days Caleb Williams is going to be the new face of the Chicago Bears franchise? Am I excited that the Bears have positioned themselves to be able to take this young man with the first overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft? You're goddamn right I am! I can't wait for Caleb Williams to come in and go fuck the shit out of the NFC North. You pack that fudge up in fucking Brown Bay. Call him Steve. Yeah, give it to Steve. That's what I'm fucking talking about. It's time to get pumped. It's time to get amped. It's time to get excited, Bears fans. This represents a new moment in the history of this overrated ass, satisfied with mediocrity, Bears football mediocrity in the McCaskey Way organization. You should be excited. I'm fucking excited. You're damn right. Because when I look at it, Caleb Williams and NFL projections, I think his floor is Russell Wilson, and I think his ceiling is Aaron Rodgers. If he can slow down a little bit at times and he can execute better within structure and use that great football intellect that I know that he has, he could be an Aaron Rodgers level type of quarterback. There's no question in my mind about that. If he doesn't and he wants to play too haphazard and improvise too much and he can't consistently execute or be comfortable within structure, then he's going to be Russell Wilson. A guy that certainly 9-time Pro Bowler, right, has enjoyed some success as a franchise quarterback in the league, but in no way, shape, or form would you put him on that same tier as Aaron Rodgers. There's a clear difference, right? And when you also talk about career trajectories for a Caleb Williams, you want to mirror an Aaron Rodgers more than you do a Russell Wilson in terms of longevity and ability to be a top-level quarterback later into your career. I think Caleb Williams is a top 5 talent in this draft class. He's my QB2 in this class. He's not my QB1. But this is a situation where I absolutely think the right and only option for the Chicago Bears is to bear down, bitches, and run up to that podium on Thursday night and make Caleb Williams the top overall pick of the 2024 NFL draft and make him the face of the fucking franchise. Yeah!